that Carson Wentz has been traded to the Indianapolis Colts. It's a reunited situation with his old offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, from 2017, that season that everyone talks about when they talk about Carson Wentz, because he was on his way to being the MVP. He was a second-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler before suffering that knee injury. Some of the nuts and bolts of this deal that the Eagles now send Carson Wentz to Indianapolis, and in return, they will get a third-round pick in this year's draft and then a conditional second-round pick in the 2022 draft. Now, if Wentz is to play in over 70% of the snaps, so if he's the starter, then that would become a first-round pick, which obviously has increased value. And then also worth noting here, the Eagles take it on the chin with this one, a $33.8 million dead cap charge on this year's salary cap bill, which is now going to be $180 million. So that's the largest in the history of the NFL. A lot to sort through here, Gary, so I'll let you take it wherever you want. But your first reactions to this deal?
Well, Indianapolis was always one of the most obvious possible landing spots because of the connection to Frank Reich and because the Colts need a quarterback. Carson Wentz is one, so we solved that problem. Obviously, you're getting somebody who is not valued very well right now. He is somebody who was just benched for a rookie quarterback who was benched while he was in college. Not a good look. But once upon a time, somebody thought Carson Wentz was worthy of being a top 5 pick in a draft. Somebody thought Carson Wentz was worthy of getting this type of contract. Somebody thought Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate. So if you can tap back into that, you'll be happy with this deal. If you can't, then you won't. For Philadelphia, it just kind of is what it is. I know they were hoping to ensure they secure first-round draft picks for Carson Wentz. It's possible they get one, maybe two, but it is not guaranteed. The dead cap hit is just a monster, but they had to move him. There was no great market for him, so this is what it is.
I love this deal for the Colts. I think that there is something to work with Carson Wentz, and there's evidence of it as long ago as 2017 may feel like, but the Colts are ready to win now. We saw that with Phillip Rivers, and there's a roster on both sides of the ball, specifically defensively, that's championship worthy. So if they can get Wentz anything close to what he was in 2017 under the direction of Frank Reich and that impressive staff, then they're in great shape. But also, this doesn't damage the Colts' big picture when it comes to the financials. While Wentz is owed a lot of money, the Colts are still in a great cap situation. Even with taking on this money, they went from being in the top 1 or 2 of available cap space to 5th. So Chris Ballard is one of the best GMs going right now in managing that cap. So they're still armed with the ability to get even better. I think this is a home run for the Indianapolis Colts, and it'll be fun to see how it plays out. And these are the 9 players to watch, Gary, heading into March Madness, in your opinion. And we start at number 9 with a name that even the casual basketball fan would know at this point, Luka Garza.
It just seems like the proper place to start. Luka Garza is a guy who was the favorite to win National Player of the Year when this season started, and he has done nothing to lower expectations. He is still, at this moment, the favorite, averaging 24.5 points, 8.4 rebounds per contest, shooting 56% from the field, 43% from 3. He's got the highest player efficiency rating in the entire nation, and he is the reason Iowa's got the best offense in the entire nation. If the Hawkeyes are going to get to the Final Four for the first time since 1980, Luka Garza will obviously be the biggest reason why.
Coming in at number 8 is a guy that I've been watching since he was on YouTube in high school, just dunking over dudes. Started at Georgetown, now at Texas Tech. It's Matt McClung.
Yes, he starts his career at Georgetown, and I'll be honest, I wasn't sure he would be a star at Texas Tech, but he is a star at Texas Tech and somebody who has shown the ability to make big shots in high-stakes situations. Texas Tech is going to be a high seed in this NCAA tournament, and then it's going to be up to Mac McClung to help them advance in the bracket. He is averaging 17.2 points per game, couple of rebounds, couple of assists. He got 30 against West Virginia, so he can go big, hit the game winner at Texas. If there's a big shot to be taken, Mac McClung wants to take it. He could easily develop into one of the stars of this NCAA tournament.
Coming in at 7, it's a sophomore and Ohio State's leading scorer, E.J. Liddell.
Right now, Ohio State is projected to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Amazing job by Chris Holtman, the head coach there, because he doesn't have an obvious star on his roster. He doesn't have an obvious future NBA player in the program. But E.J. Liddell is the best of the bunch. He's averaging a team-high 15.1 points and a team-high 6.7 rebounds for the Buckeyes, having an incredible college season. He has Ohio State right now on a 6-game winning streak and headed toward, again, a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
At 6, our first freshman makes the list, Hunter Dickinson out of Michigan.
Hunter Dickinson is not a heralded NBA prospect like some of the other freshmen in this class. Cade Cunningham at Oklahoma State, Evan Mobley at USC, but he is among the best players, if not the best player, on a team that is going to win the Big Ten and is projected to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. He's really been just phenomenal right from the start in helping Juwan Howard establish himself as one of the great college basketball coaches in this country. Hunter Dickinson has exceeded all reasonable expectations, averaging 14.9 points and a team-high 7.7 rebounds. If Michigan is actually going to get back to the Final Four like Juwan Howard did twice, Dickinson will play a big role in that.
Illinois hoops is back, and it's awesome. And thanks in large part to who you have here at number 5 in Ayo Dosunmu.
I mentioned earlier Luka Garza is the favorite to be the National Player of the Year. That is true. His biggest competition is Ayo Dosunmu. That is also true. Just a fabulous guard who closes games as well as anybody in the country. He closed last Friday night against Nebraska, closed incredibly earlier this week against Northwestern. We've seen ball-dominant guards carry teams to national titles. Kemba Walker at UConn being the best kind of recent example. Ayo Dosunmu is capable of doing something similar. If you're in a tight game under 4 to play, there is nobody you want on your team more than Illinois' Ayo Dosunmu.
Closing in on that number 4 spot, Jared Butler out of Baylor.
Yeah, Evan, we haven't seen him play in a while. The Bears have been shut down since February 2nd. They are scheduled to return to the court next week. And when they do, I assume Jared Butler very quickly is going to reestablish himself as not only a likely first-team All-American, but a possible National Player of the Year candidate. He has just been terrific this season after withdrawing from the NBA draft at the last minute. He's averaging 17 points, 5.2 assists per game. He's the main reason Baylor is 17-0, ranked second nationally, and yes, the biggest threat to Gonzaga winning the national title.
In at 3, we've talked about, and you've laid it out well, Gonzaga's the favorite at this point. Our first member of the Zags on the Gary Parrish 9 is Jalen Suggs.
He is a tremendous freshman, likely one-and-done draft pick, probably going to go in the top 5 of the 2021 NBA draft. He has not been Gonzaga's best player this season. He's been happy to defer to some of the upperclassmen in a way that kind of reminds me of Derrick Rose back on that 2008 Memphis team. When people think of that team, they first think of D. Rose, but Derrick wasn't the best player on the team. The best player was Chris Douglas-Roberts. He was the first-team All-American, but in the NCAA tournament, D. Rose turned it up a notch, hit a new gear, just overwhelmed every point guard that got in front of him, which is how and when he solidified himself as the number 1 pick in the 2008 NBA draft. Don't be surprised if Jalen Suggs does something similar. Right now, mostly deferring, but when the NCAA tournament starts, I could see him kick it up a notch and carry Gonzaga to the national title.
And at times deferring to the guy you have at number 2 in Drew Timme of Gonzaga, the Zags' leading scorer.
You know, I had to do a preseason top 25 and 1 for CBSSports.com last March, right after the NCAA tournament was canceled. I had Gonzaga number 1 based on, among other things, Philip Petrusev returning. He did not return. He ultimately decided to pursue professional opportunities, and I never moved Gonzaga from number 1. And the biggest reason is because of Drew Timme. If you talk to that Gonzaga staff, they made it fairly clear that they believe Drew Timme would slide into the starting lineup and be similarly productive. As it is, he's been better than Petrusev. He's incredible around the rim, comfortable away from it. There is a good chance he, along with a Gonzaga teammate, are both first-team All-Americans once this season is settled.
Let's round out the majority of the starting 5 of the Zags with who you've got at number 1, Corey Kispert of Gonzaga.
Well, the reason I went with 3 Zags in this 9 is because Gonzaga, for better or worse, is going to be the story of the NCAA tournament. And Corey Kispert is the Zags' best player. He is averaging 19.2 points per game, shooting it in a way that opens things up for Drew Timme to operate. He's taken on average 6 3-pointers a game, making 48% of them. Just an awesome player for an awesome team, and by all accounts, a great guy, teammate, everything. Corey Kispert has a real chance to become a first-team All-American, win a national title, lead a team to an undefeated season, and then be a top 10 pick in the 2021 NBA draft. A lot of players decided to come back to school for one more year. You could reasonably argue nobody has helped themselves more than Corey Kispert at Gonzaga.
Man, Fernando Tatis, he signed a monster deal. If we're talking about big contracts, as I look down at this, $340 million, Gary Parrish, over the course of 14 years. That's what he signed to. This is guaranteed money, my man. He's only 22 years old, so he could re-up at 35. This is something that kind of draws your attention no matter where you were when you saw it.
Imagine winning Powerball or Mega Millions at the age of 22. That is essentially what Fernando Tatis just did. It is the largest contract for somebody this young in the history of Major League Baseball. It is the third largest contract in the history of Major League Baseball. And it's hard not to argue that he's not worthy of it. You know, if he's not already the face of baseball, that is coming soon. Fabulous shortstop, big bat, and an incredible personality, big flair. So if you're San Diego, you lock in a potential star for a long, long time at a rate that is only $24 million per year when you get the calculator out. Now, again, that's a big number, but if Fernando Tatis lives up to expectations, and there is no reason to think that he won't, barring injuries, of course, this is going to be a value deal for San Diego. And if it ends up being bad in year 12 or 13 or 14, I promise you, as long as Tatis is great throughout his 20s, you will not regret it at all. I honestly think this is good for San Diego. I think it's good for Fernando Tatis and great for Padres fans, because now you know that for more than a decade, you're going to get to root for somebody who looks like the most exciting player in the big leagues.
Yeah, if I know what you look like as a baseball player and have enjoyed watching you do your thing, then you know you're doing something right, because baseball, as we know, Gary, is not my thing. And I love the fact that it's San Diego and a small market team in a lot of ways, willing to write this big a check, even though it's spread out over so many seasons.